There's a certain kind of woman who walks among us, though most people don't fully see her. She carries a kind of intelligence that isn't measured by IQ tests or grades. It's quieter, older, and harder to define. Like an underground current moving through the landscape of human consciousness. When you meet her, you might not even know why you feel different in her presence. Something inside you shifts. Her silence seems to say more than entire conversations. For years, those of us in depth psychology have tried to understand this kind of woman. In my own research, I've come to recognize that some women possess what I call a superior feeling function, a psychological capacity that goes far beyond normal emotional sensitivity. These women don't just feel more deeply. They perceive through emotional and intuitive channels that most people never even know exist. They sense the unseen, interpret the symbolic, and navigate reality with a kind of spiritual literacy that can't yet be explained by science. Today, I want to explore the 6 invisible traits that distinguish these spiritually intelligent women from those who simply perform spirituality or confuse emotional reactivity with genuine insight. These traits often exist beneath the surface, misunderstood by a world that values logic over mystery and data over depth. Yet for those who carry them, they are both a gift and a burden, a calling that requires them to walk between worlds while still staying grounded in this one. Trait 1. Energetic literacy. The first invisible trait is their ability to read energy. When such a woman walks into a room, something shifts. The atmosphere changes, not because of what she says, but because of what she is. Over time, I've come to understand that this is what the developed feeling function looks like at its highest expression. It's not sentimentality or emotional volatility. It's a precise inner instrument tuned to detect authenticity, deception, grief, joy, and everything in between. These women are living barometers of human truth. They pick up the tension between two people smiling across a dinner table. They feel the sadness hiding behind a friend's cheerful words. They notice the subtle flicker in someone's tone that reveals an unspoken motive. It's not paranoia. It's pattern recognition operating at frequencies most people don't access. Often this sensitivity is inherited. Generations of women before them honed it for survival. Grandmothers and great-grandmothers who had to read the emotional climate of their homes to stay safe. They learned to interpret the meaning in a sigh, a glance, a footstep. That ancient vigilance still lives in their descendants, encoded in nervous systems that detect danger, opportunity, and emotional shifts before words ever appear. But this gift comes with weight. To see what others hide can be painful. To feel deeply means constantly encountering pretense, denial, and distortion. Spiritually intelligent women often become mirrors, reflecting truths that others are not ready to face. People may call them intimidating, intense, or too sensitive. In reality, they're simply attuned to authenticity in a way that exposes what's false. Have you ever walked into a room and known something was wrong, even though everyone was smiling? Or felt uneasy around someone for no obvious reason, only to learn later your instincts were right? That's energetic literacy in action, the first layer of this hidden intelligence. Trait 2. Connection to the collective unconscious. The second trait is their deep relationship with what Carl Jung called the collective unconscious, the vast shared realm of archetypes and symbols that links every human being across time and culture. Most people only brush against this dimension in dreams or flashes of intuition. But for spiritually intelligent women, that channel is always open. Their dreams are not random. They're symbolic blueprints that later unfold in waking life. They experience coincidences that defy logic and timing that feels divinely orchestrated. They receive insights not from deduction, but from direct intuitive download. Their egos, in Jungian terms, are more permeable, allowing wisdom from the collective to move through them without overwhelming their individuality. These women act as translators between worlds, the unseen and the seen, the They turn abstract inner symbols into practical guidance. A dream of overflowing water becomes a message about emotional healing. An encounter with a hawk becomes a lesson about clarity and courage. To outsiders, this may look like superstition. To them, it's communication. They understand that the universe speaks in whispers and symbols, and they've learned how to listen. This connection doesn't just serve their personal growth, it often positions them as instruments of collective healing. They find themselves at the right place at the right time, offering exactly what someone else needs, not by planning, but by following those invisible threads of meaning. Their lives unfold like mythic stories, guided by an unseen hand, filled with synchronicities that confirm they are in tune with something larger than themselves. Trait 3. Sacred solitude. The third trait is their embrace of sacred solitude. These women understand that true transformation happens in silence, away from the noise of constant interaction and societal expectation. In a culture that worships busyness and extroversion, their need for solitude is often misunderstood. But they know that to hear their inner voice clearly, they must regularly step away from external noise. Their solitude is not isolation. It's intentional. It's where they recalibrate, create, and reconnect with their essence. They write, meditate, dream, and simply be until the sediment of daily life settles and clarity rises to the surface. For them, solitude is a spiritual practice, an essential part of individuation, the psychological process of becoming whole. This pattern often confuses those close to them. Friends might think they're withdrawing out of sadness. Partners might interpret their quiet as distance. But solitude for these women isn't about rejection. It's about preservation. They know their sensitivity needs space to regenerate. Without it, they lose the very depth that makes them who they are. Over time, they learn to honor this rhythm, alternating between engagement and retreat, between sharing their light and returning to the well. Their solitude becomes not an escape from the world, but a preparation to re-enter it with renewed clarity and groundedness. Trait 4. The alchemy of suffering. The fourth trait, perhaps the most transformative, is their ability to alchemize suffering. These women don't just survive pain, they turn it into wisdom. This is the process Jung called the transcendent function, the capacity to hold opposing forces until a new consciousness emerges. Spiritually intelligent women walk through their own underworlds willingly. They face trauma, loss, and grief head-on, knowing that transformation happens only in truth. They refuse to numb out or spiritually bypass their pain with empty positivity. Instead, they descend, they feel, and they transform. In doing so, they embody the archetype of the wounded healer, someone who gains the power to heal others precisely because she's faced her own wounds. Their suffering becomes a kind of sacred credential. They don't speak about healing from theory but from lived experience, paid for in tears and sleepless nights. Their inner work allows them to integrate opposites, light and shadow, love and loss, strength and vulnerability. They stop waging war within themselves and instead make peace with their complexity. This integration is what makes their wisdom magnetic. It's not borrowed, it's earned. And with that comes responsibility. Once you've turned your pain into gold, you're called to use it, not to preach but to guide. Many of these women become teachers, counselors, or healers, drawn to share what they've learned in service of others' transformation. Their wounds become medicine, their stories become maps, and their presence itself becomes an offering to a world that's forgotten how to feel. Trait 5. Therapeutic presence. The fifth trait isn't something they say, it's something you feel. Their presence heals. They communicate not through speeches or advice, but through energy, the quiet, grounded vibration of someone who's fully alive and fully present. Their silence isn't empty, it's eloquent. It carries the weight of understanding, compassion, and peace. When they sit with someone in pain, they don't rush to fix or analyze. They simply witness. And in that witnessing, something profound happens. The other person feels seen, accepted, and soothed, often without a single word being exchanged. They understand the sacred power of language and use it sparingly. Every word is chosen with care. They know that words can heal or harm, so they treat them as instruments, not noise. Where others speak to fill silence, they let silence speak. This discernment extends to how they manage their energy. They know that not every space deserves their full openness, and not every person earns their deepest attention. Through hard experience, they've learned to honor their limits, to give generously without self-depletion. Their presence is like tuning a stringed instrument. Those who come near them unconsciously align to their frequency. People leave their company lighter, clearer, calmer. That's not coincidence, it's resonance. They are human tuning forks for truth and balance. Trait 6. Living synchronicity. The sixth and final trait of spiritually intelligent women is their natural relationship with synchronicity. Those meaningful coincidences that seem too precise to be random. They don't chase mystical experiences. They attract them. Life seems to speak directly to them, arranging events, people, and opportunities in ways that feel orchestrated by a deeper intelligence. Where others search frantically for signs, they simply live in alignment and the signs come. Their lives unfold like sacred texts, full of symbolic patterns and timely encounters. A number sequence that repeats, a chance meeting that sparks transformation, a door closing just before the right one opens. These are not flukes. They are reflections of the deep coherence between their inner and outer worlds. In Jungian terms, this is the harmony between the conscious ego and the unconscious self. When that connection is strong, life begins to mirror the psyche. These women become participants in a divine choreography, co-creators in a conversation with the cosmos. It's not fantasy. It's perception sharpened to the frequency of meaning. But this gift demands discernment. Not every coincidence carries wisdom. Not every sign is sacred. They must learn to distinguish true guidance from wishful thinking, intuition from projection. Over time, they develop a refined inner compass, learning to trust only what resonates in the heart's quiet certainty. And with that discernment, they move through the world like navigators guided by invisible stars, steady, fluid, and unafraid of uncertainty. Their presence in any space often catalyzes transformation without effort. They don't try to change others, but transformation happens around them naturally. They awaken people simply by being who they are, authentic, grounded, and luminous. Their light reveals what's been hidden, and their calm exposes what's restless. They are mirrors of awakening in human form, the return to simplicity. As these women mature, something profound occurs. The mystical becomes ordinary. The extraordinary softens into the natural rhythm of being. They stop needing to identify as gifted or special. Their spirituality loses its performance. Their intelligence becomes humble, embodied, and quiet. This is what I call the return to simplicity. After years of exploring shadow and light, intuition and intellect, solitude and connection, they arrive at a state of graceful ordinariness. Their wisdom no longer shouts, it whispers. Their insight no longer dazzles, it nourishes. They no longer seek to be understood, validated, or admired. They simply are. And yet their impact deepens. The lives they touch may never make headlines, but their influence runs deep. They leave behind no grand monuments, only invisible imprints. A heart soothed here, a soul awakened there, a life quietly redirected toward wholeness. True influence, they understand, is often invisible, rooted in presence, not performance. Their solitude becomes sanctuary, not exile. Their sensitivity, once burdensome, becomes their compass. The wisdom that once made them outsiders becomes the medicine they were born to bring. They trust the intelligence flowing through them, even when logic cannot explain it. They honor their difference as divine design, not defect. They walk through life as living prayers. Grace in motion, authenticity made flesh. The descent into shadow. But every woman who carries this level of intelligence must eventually confront the shadow. The hidden aspects of herself she'd rather not see. Jung taught that no transformation is possible without a descent, and for these women, that descent is not optional. Their heightened perception means they can't ignore the fractures within. They sense the disowned, the unresolved, the repressed, not only in others, but in themselves. To carry such awareness is to hold a mirror inward as much as outward. They must face their envy, fear, shame, and grief with radical honesty. They can't hide behind spiritual platitudes or bypass discomfort with positivity. Their sensitivity makes avoidance impossible. When the shadow calls, they must answer. Yet this confrontation doesn't destroy them, it refines them. The descent becomes alchemy. Suffering becomes the crucible that burns away illusion, revealing essence. They emerge not unscarred, but integrated, able to hold contradiction without splitting, able to live with paradox without losing peace. They are tempered souls, forged in the fires of their own truth. This is what makes their wisdom trustworthy. It's not theoretical, it's embodied. They've lived it. Their guidance carries authority because it's been tested in the depths of despair. Their compassion rings true because it was carved from pain. They know healing not as a concept, but as survival turned sacred. Relationships as sacred mirrors. For these women, relationships are never superficial. Their sensitivity won't allow it. They can't float on small talk or pretend connection. They feel the undercurrents, the motives behind words, the patterns behind behaviors, the contracts that go unspoken yet bind deeply. This makes intimacy both profound and challenging. Every relationship becomes a mirror for truth. They sense when love is real and when it's manipulation, when affection is sincere and when it's strategic. While others may find comfort in pretense, these women crave authenticity, even when it hurts. That clarity can unsettle those around them. Partners may call them too much, too intense, or too analytical, but what they truly are is accurate. Their presence exposes what's unacknowledged, and not everyone is ready to face themselves reflected so clearly. Still, when relationships align with authenticity, they flourish. The connection becomes sacred space, a shared journey of evolution. In such bonds, honesty is non-negotiable and growth becomes mutual. These women teach their partners and friends that real love isn't comfort, it's transformation. It's truth spoken with tenderness. It's the courage to be seen completely and to see completely in return. The burden of authenticity. There's a loneliness that comes with this path, not from being alone, but from rarely being understood. Jung once said that loneliness doesn't stem from isolation, but from being unable to communicate what matters most. For the spiritually intelligent woman, that is her lifelong tension. She yearns for community but refuses to betray her truth for the comfort of belonging. She could join the crowd, but not without losing herself. This fidelity to authenticity often costs her relationships, status, even love. People misread her boundaries as rejection, her solitude as arrogance, her discernment as judgment. But what she's truly protecting is her integrity. She knows that if she silences her knowing, she silences her soul. With time, she learns to bear misunderstanding with grace. She no longer needs to explain or defend her truth. She understands that some connections will dissolve because of her clarity, and that's okay. The price of authenticity is high, but the cost of self-betrayal is higher. Living by synchronicity. One of the most remarkable aspects of their lives is how naturally synchronicity becomes their compass. They start to recognize the hidden order behind seemingly random events. The dream that predicts a meeting. The stranger whose words echo a buried question. The opportunity that arises just as courage is found. These moments guide them more reliably than logic ever could. To live this way requires faith, a willingness to move when the signs appear, even when the path ahead is unclear. It's not magical thinking, it's partnership with the intelligence of life itself. They move through the world as if it were alive and responsive, because it is. To them, every coincidence is a conversation, every symbol a message, every encounter an initiation. Others might call it luck or fate, but they know better. They live by listening, and in listening, they align with the rhythm of the universe. This is not passivity, it's participation at the highest level. Life speaks, and they answer. Service without performance. Eventually, this inner alignment draws them towards service. They become healers, teachers, artists, guides. Not because they chase those roles, but because service becomes the natural expression of their being. Their influence doesn't require titles or stages. It flows through everyday moments. A kind word to a stranger. A calm presence in chaos. A single sentence that shifts someone's path. Their service is quiet power. They don't need to prove their wisdom. They embody it. Where others perform enlightenment, they simply live it, and by living it, they awaken it in others. The mark of true transformation, I've always said, is simplicity. These women exemplify that truth. Their teaching is not in grand gestures, but in their presence itself. Their existence says what words cannot, that it's possible to live awake, compassionate and whole in a fragmented world. The cultural tension. Every era has its blindness. In Jung's time, it was scientific materialism, the belief that only what can be measured or dissected is real. Today, the blindness takes new forms. Productivity worship, distraction disguised as connection, the constant performance of self. Spiritually intelligent women challenge this worldview simply by existing. They move slowly in a culture that prizes speed. They value depth in a society obsessed with appearance. They prioritize meaning over metrics. To live this way is to stand slightly out of sync with the modern world. But in that dissonance lies their power. They remind us that wisdom doesn't shout. It resonates. That value isn't proven by visibility, but by authenticity. That life isn't a race, but a pilgrimage. Their very being is a living critique of the shallow and a quiet call back to depth. Generational transmission. We can't talk about spiritually intelligent women without talking about where they come from, because these gifts rarely appear in isolation. They are inherited, passed down through generations like invisible heirlooms. Their sensitivity often carries the echo of women who came before, women who survived through intuition, who learned to read silence because their lives depended on it. Think of the grandmother who sensed danger in the way a door closed, or the mother who knew betrayal was coming in the tone of a voice. These ancestral instincts didn't vanish. They evolved. They live in the nervous systems of modern women who may not know the stories but feel the imprints, the sudden intuitions, the unexplained empathy, the instinctive knowing. They are carrying memory, not just their own, but generations deep. When these women begin to work consciously with their inheritance, something profound happens. Their healing doesn't stop with them. It flows backward and forward, transforming the emotional DNA of their lineage. They become living bridges between past and future, Their self-awareness liberates what was trapped in the ancestral field. Their courage rewrites the story for those who came before and those yet to come. In Jungian language, this is the work of the collective unconscious made personal. It's how private healing becomes universal. Through one woman's awakening, entire bloodlines begin to realign. The paradox of visibility. There's a strange paradox that defines their lives. On one hand, their presence draws people in. Others sense the energy they carry, the peace, the depth, the subtle magnetism, and they want to be near it. People seek them out for guidance, comfort, or simply to feel what they emanate. On the other hand, these same women often long for invisibility. They crave the freedom to move through the world without being constantly called upon to hold space, to fix, to listen. They oscillate between wanting to share their light and wanting to protect it. This dance, between emergence and retreat, is not confusion. It's balance. Like the moon, they move in cycles. Sometimes they shine fully, illuminating others. Sometimes they wane, drawing inward to restore. Over time, they stop judging this rhythm. They realize it's not selfish to rest. It's sacred to honor their seasons. Their visibility becomes intentional, not obligatory. They step forward when spirit calls, and they step back when silence is needed. Both are part of their service. The weight of projection. To live as a mirror is to be misunderstood. Others see in them what they can't face in themselves. Idealize them, resent them, fear them, adore them. They become screens for projection, reflecting both the light and shadow of those around them. Some will call them saints. Others will call them difficult. Both are illusions. This dynamic can be exhausting if not understood. Early on, many of these women internalize others' projections, either inflating into the role of savior or collapsing under judgment. It takes time and deep inner work to learn that projection is not truth. It's a reflection of the observer's inner world, not a statement about who they really are. Jung called this transference in therapy, but it happens everywhere. Families, friendships, workplaces. Once these women recognize the pattern, they stop absorbing what isn't theirs. They become clear mirrors, reflecting without attachment, compassionate yet boundaried. This discernment frees them from the need to please or perform. They no longer carry the burden of being who others imagine. They stand simply as themselves, real, imperfect, luminous. A new model of power. Perhaps the most radical quality of the spiritually intelligent woman is her relationship with power. The world teaches that power means control, commanding, competing, dominating. She knows another way. Her power flows from presence, not position. It influences through resonance, not resistance. She doesn't manipulate. She magnetizes. She doesn't dominate. She illuminates. Her authority is quiet, yet undeniable. It comes from alignment with her true self. The archetypal center Jung called the self, the organizing principle of wholeness. When a woman lives from this place, her influence doesn't need explanation. People feel it in her calm, her clarity, her steadiness. This kind of power doesn't build empires. It changes atmospheres. It shifts conversations, opens hearts, inspires courage. It's the power of the healer, the artist, the mother, the mystic. The power to call forth life, not conquer it. It's subtle, but it's unstoppable. The return to the ordinary. After years of walking between worlds, spiritual and human, mystical and mundane, these women eventually return home to the ordinary. Not because their magic fades, but because it integrates. They no longer need to dramatize their gifts or live at extremes. They've found equilibrium. They may garden, raise children, teach, run businesses, or simply live quietly. Outwardly, nothing looks mystical, yet everything they touch carries intention, presence, and grace. They are rooted in both heaven and earth, embodying the sacred in everyday moments. They've learned that enlightenment isn't escape from the world. It's full participation in it. This is individuation fulfilled, the blending of the eternal with the temporal. They no longer seek transcendence. They embody it. Their life itself becomes the teaching, simple, whole, and real. The integration of wholeness. The journey of these women is ultimately about integration. Jung called it individuation, the process of becoming whole, of weaving together the fragments of self into one cohesive being. For spiritually intelligent women, this isn't theory. It's lived reality. They live at the crossroads of opposites, light and shadow, intuition and reason, spirit and body, love and loss. They don't strive to eliminate contradiction. They hold it until harmony emerges. That's what makes them unpredictable to others. Just when someone thinks they know them, they change. Just when the world tries to define them, they expand. Their intelligence isn't about accumulating knowledge. It's about synthesis. It's about embodying paradox until it becomes peace. This is the transcendent function in motion, the psyche giving birth to new consciousness through the tension of opposites, invisible influence. The most misunderstood aspect of their existence is that their greatest impact is often invisible. They don't seek fame or followers. They influence through subtle ripples, the right word spoken at the right time, the presence that calms chaos, the silence that reveals truth. They may never appear in history books, yet their effect is generational. A child grows up freer because she broke a cycle of silence. A friend finds courage because she modeled vulnerability. A partner awakens because she insisted on honesty. This is power that doesn't announce itself, but endures. In a culture obsessed with visibility, they remind us that the unseen is no less real. Like roots beneath the soil, their influence nourishes life in ways that can't be measured but can be felt. They are the quiet architects of collective evolution. The legacy of sensitivity. For too long, sensitivity has been treated like a flaw. But these women prove that it's a form of intelligence, a way of knowing that perceives truth beyond logic. Sensitivity is what allows them to feel what's hidden, to sense the future stirring before it arrives, to hear the unspoken language of the soul. Their legacy is to restore sensitivity to its rightful place, as strength, not weakness. To show that empathy is not naivety, intuition is not delusion, and stillness is not laziness. They live as living counter-arguments to a culture that glorifies noise, speed, and numbness. They remind us that wisdom often comes in whispers, that real connection requires quiet, that healing begins in presence. The responsibility of the gift. Every gift carries responsibility. To see deeply means to face truths others avoid. To feel profoundly means to risk exhaustion. To live authentically means to endure misunderstanding. Spiritually intelligent women know that their gift isn't for self-glorification. It's for service. They must learn discernment, how to share without draining, to help without saving, to empathize without absorbing. They can't use their perception to manipulate or collapse into martyrdom when the world doesn't understand. Instead, they practice boundaries as devotion. They hold power gently, knowing that wisdom without humility becomes arrogance, and compassion without restraint becomes self-sacrifice. Their strength lies not in being invulnerable but in being real, in balancing softness with sovereignty, openness with protection. In this equilibrium, their intelligence fulfills its purpose, not to separate them from the world, but to heal it through example. The final simplicity. In the end, what remains is not grandeur, but simplicity. After walking through shadow and light, through noise and silence, they arrive at peace. Their lives no longer need to prove anything. Their wisdom no longer needs to announce itself. They embody what Jung called the self, the quiet center around which life turns. They may appear ordinary, a woman in a cafe, tending a garden, holding a child, but within her dwells a stillness that has seen the depths and returned whole. She has become what I once described as an instance of the eternal in the temporal. Her very existence is the teaching. If you recognize yourself in these words, know this: you are not broken, and you are not alone. The traits you carry are not accidents, they are assignments. Your sensitivity is your compass. Your solitude is your sanctuary. Your pain was your initiation. The world may not always understand you, but it needs you. Don't shrink to fit smaller rooms. Don't apologize for your knowing. Don't silence the wisdom that speaks through your being. Trust the current moving through you. Honor the calling that chose you. Embrace the mystery that shapes you. Because the world is starving for depth, for meaning, for soul, and you are the bridge.